once again to the Friday Beer Break. I'm joined by my wonderful friend, Mr. Chris Schreier.
Hi, Fred.
Of course, the Friday Beer Break is brought to you by the Toronto Festival of Beer, July 26th through to the 28th. But what do you have today?
Well, we got a new one. This one just came to market, and I actually have them all screwed up. But Alexander Keith's has just put out this new series of single hop beers. They decided they wanted to sort of expand their lineup. They have a pretty big portfolio anyway, but they wanted to move into a little bit more of the sort of the craft folks are doing. And so they've got these two single hop ales, one with Cascade hops and one with Hallertau hops. So this is sort of an exploration in how the hops smell and taste.
So a lot of beers are made with a blend of hops then?
Yeah, the norm would be to make the beer with a variety. There are some hops that do really well early in the boil, which adds a lot of physical bitterness that you'll feel on your cheeks. And then some that do better towards the end of the boil, which add the aromas and the tastes more than the feeling.
Now you've actually brought in hop with you.
Keith's actually supplied them for me, which was kind of nice of them. They came with the kit, but they did it as like a secret-y, you got to guess which one's which. It was, I'm not boasting, but it was pretty easy for me. Sorry.
I'm going to Cascade.
Well, you're supposed to compare them. You could be dead wrong.
No,
he's absolutely right. That one's Cascade.
I can tell you Cascade because there's like more of a citrusy smell with a little bitter follow-up on this one. And that Cascade is used primarily in a lot of IPAs.
My work here's done.
Yes, that's right. You've taught me well. But when you're making beer, like, it doesn't come like this. It's always compressed into little pellets.
That's right.
This is how they
Not
used
always.
to do it?
Yeah, well, so these are whole leaf hops. I don't know how well we're going to be able to see them, but you can see they're leafy cones.
You can smell IPA in this, by the way.
Yeah,
you can smell IPA.
Hop, it's something. So these are whole leaf. Some brewers do use whole leaf hops. The difficulty is when they're pelletized, they take them, they process them, and they check them. So they're checking for alpha acid contents and for a variety of compounds. So they actually can standardize. They're homogenized. They know specifically if you put in this volume of hop, it's going to have this impact. Whole leaf, it's a crapshoot because some cones will have more resins than others.
So basically, if you're using the whole leaf stuff, one batch is going to be different than the next.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's less control. So obviously, smaller brewers who are a little bit less stringent about that can play with it. Some even grow their own now. For anything that's production, you pretty well are using pelletized hops. They look like rabbit food, sort of.
So I want to try this Hallertauer.
Yeah, we're going to do the Hallertau first. Now, the reason for that is Hallertau hops are a noble hop. They're quite flavorful, but they're not as impactful as the Cascades. The Hallertau is a little bit more of the easy starter, I guess you could say. Do you want to do two?
Yeah.
Fred's thirsty today.
So Hallertau. Now, what were these used for? Like, this is a noble hop variety from Germany. Like, what would have been used in over there? Can you make any type of beer with any type of hop? Because I would imagine that when they started making beers, they didn't be like, oh, well, this particular vine is only good for this.
Right. Within reason, you definitely can.
I really did myself a number on
Yeah,
that
I was going to say, you're thirsty today, buddy.
Should I drink it while you talk, or am I not allowed to?
No, go ahead. Then you hassle me because you're done and I'm still drinking. Some German beers, like wheat beers, aren't as hop forward, and so they would use a more subdued sort of hop. With things like a Pils, for instance, or a Hellesbock, they would want a bit more hop presence. You'll find Hallertau in that. Even it's funny within Hallertau is sort of almost a generic term in the sense of hops. There's Hallertau, Hallertauer, Hallertau Mittelfer. There are a bunch of different types. So this is of the Hallertau. I think it's a regional thing. So anyway, I haven't had my sip yet. What do you think?
You know, it's a lot softer. Like the past few beers we've been drinking have had like a lot of punch and they've been really bold. This is very soft. It's like a very easy drinking beer, like a session beer.
Definitely a session beer. And you also need to bear in mind, when you're talking about Keith's and sort of Keith's market, Keith's IPA is a fairly easy drinking North American styled ale. So
yeah, it's not an IPA. They always call it like Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale, but it's not an India Pale Ale. So is this going to be an IPA?
Just before this is considered a pale ale, an American style pale ale. I tend to agree with you on the IPA thing. That being said, there's no governing body.
Yeah.
Like, there literally is no beer police who's going to come along and say, oh, sorry, said it was an IPA and it's only 20 IBU. You really needed to be over 40. I have no choice. I won't show up in court then.
Is that the law, like 40 IBU? Is
I don't
that
know.
like the standard? Did
No,
you just
I
make
think
that up?
No, I'm generalizing.
All right.
I think American IPAs kind of go from 40 and up. I don't know. BJCP is the beer judging certification panel, and they're the standards group that kind of says this is the style, but no one's obligated to follow their standards. So I'd have to look at the BJCP to see what the qualification is. Anyway, suffice to say, geeks often moan and moan and moan, like Fred just did. Oh, Keith's not an IPA. It's not an IPA. Hey,
all right.
They've been calling it an IPA for way longer than most brewers. I agree.
Because it feels like in the last 10 years, there's been a massive explosion of the indie brew scene. So
yeah, and so my IPAs are big and hoppy, very, very, very bitter. What I was getting to with that point, though, was they're trying to provide people within that context a stepping stone into more flavorful, I guess you could say, beers. I would say more interesting beers.
That's good because like when like bog water comes out, the bow seasonal, which is my favorite thing to drink. When that beer comes out, I try and get people to drink it, and it's so out there. A lot of people are like,
sure,
no, not so much. But this, like you said, it's a great stepping stone to get there. You try some of these, you move on to other like really out there stuff.
Well, and I mean, hop profile in mainline North American beers is pretty minimal. You're not taking a North American lager and going, oh yeah, I think I got some Hallertau in there and maybe a bit of sauce. Like there isn't enough hop presence to do that.
Well, so I can smell the Hallertau now.
This is definitely Hallertau. It's textbook. But the point is, what they're trying to do, and I love it, is give people an option where they're going to go, oh, I'll give that a try. And then they're like, oh, never tasted hops that way. And for some people, they're going to say, no, you know what? I like the original. I like the baseline. But this is going to open doors.
Well, with these beers with the different hops in them, are they all like just a specific type of beer? Or are they all like a lager?
These ones specifically?
Yes. Are there going to be a lot of different varieties of beer, or is it just the same beer made with different hops? Because that makes a huge difference.
Yes, so this is the same base beer.
Yeah.
It's the same ale, they're just using different hopping.
So it's an ale.
Yeah, this is a pale ale.
Okay, all right.
And I don't know their intention going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a few more. I know already they're getting some good...
Well, this is great. Like, this is a really great beer to drink. Like, it tastes fantastic. It's really smooth, really light, really creamy.
Again, for an American pale ale, this is definitely tending towards the sweeter side. And I met the brewmaster at one of the events, and he was telling me this with his own mouth. They were going for that. They're aware that a lot of their market tends to the sweeter, not to the bitter side. So you get a lot of that nice malty backbone. I think he told me there's Munich maybe, or I can't remember. I have it written down somewhere, but it's probably actually on my blog. So there is a really good sweet malty presence, which
I'm excited to try this with the Cascade.
Home.
And the reason I'm excited is because like it'll be interesting to have like a Cascade and a hops in a beer that's not like made to make you quench your cheeks with bitterness,
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what he told me what the actual IBU count was on it. He may
That's really good. That's like you say, sweet. That is a sweet beer.
Yeah, with a really, you definitely taste the Cascade, but it's not aggressively bitter feeling.
Oh man,
it's pretty well balanced. It's funny because these are technically American style.
I could drink a lot of these.
Yeah,
they're really good.
Yeah, again, as a really good stepping stone into bigger, hoppier beers, I can't say enough good things about them. So these guys.
So this is a 5.5, and that's just a 5. Like, do they have to make it with more alcohol?
It's the same alcohol. One's 5.4 and one's 5.5. There's a 0.3% margin
Didn't see
for
the
error.
4. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, guys.
What it probably means
I'm
is
pretty hammered.
When you're actually doing the process of boiling, it can slightly change, even if it's the same base malts. Like the batches are going to come out slightly differently. So, but they are the same beer. Keith's is going to be at Toronto Festival of Beer. The other thing you can look out for, and I mentioned this on the radio bit, is they did a really neat thing that's still going on right now. I think actually they might even bring it to Toronto Festival. They put together a mobile brewery. So it's like a nano brewery in the back of a truck. And they pull it up places and people can come. You can go in and they'll take you through the process of making a batch of beer up to pitching the yeast. You can't pitch yeast without a license, so you can't do it in a truck. But you make the beer, you mash it in, you run it off, you boil it, you put the hops in. It's like, remember on Seinfeld? You're throwing your pie, putting the toppings on, you put it in the oven. It's just like that. So they've been doing that. It's really neat. So keep your eye out, and especially if you've never really gotten into the beers that we talk about, some of the bigger, hoppier things, but you've been interested. Like I say, really good spot to start. And,
yeah, that Cascade is fantastic.
And
they're both really good.
Good on Keith's for doing it.
I think it's great. Like exactly what you said. It'll make more beer fans out there. So, Alexander Keith's Hop Series.
Yep.
Toronto Festival of Beer, July 26th through the 28th. This Cascade is fantastic. If you want to get into IPAs, but you're leery because you had one bad experience.
This is like the wading pool.
It's good.
It's going to get your feet wet.
That's right. Yep. Take off your water wings, go for a dip.